Welcome back to
Don't Call Me Crazy, Call Me Mom podcast.
This is a judgment-free zone where we talk about all things motherhood.
Today's episode is going to be about fertility struggles, the feelings and emotions that come with it from both sides, people who have dealt with it and people who have not. So, Jess will be doing a lot of the talking today. So I don't know how you would like to start. Basically, you had Brayden, and then you were ready to have a second.
Yeah. So, we had Brayden in 2018, and then I ended up getting an IUD and the Mirena. And then when we decided we were ready to have another kid, I got the IUD taken out, and I got it taken out in like the beginning of December 2021. No. December 2020.
It's amazing you can remember the dates.
No, I don't remember the dates. I got the Mirena taken out in pretty much the very beginning of December 2020, thinking that it was going to take me a little while to get pregnant, but I immediately got pregnant. And with Brayden, it took 4 months, but like immediately, I guess I must have ovulated it and got pregnant right away. And I found out at the end of December 2020 that I was pregnant. And not long after finding out, I ended up having like a bleed, and I ended up going to the ER. I don't know why I went to the ER.
Were you at home when it happened?
Yeah. I was one of those people that went to the ER because it was still early, and like normally like a triage.
Well, what else would you do?
Call my OB, I guess. But when you're 4 or 5 weeks, however many weeks I was, you don't really I don't think the OB doesn't really get involved that early. So I did go to the ER, and you can't really see much at that time, at that early, and they just called it like a threatened miscarriage and sent me on my way. But I got some like labs done, and
does a threatened miscarriage mean like basically showing signs of one, but it wasn't one?
Yeah, so it just basically means they're not sure. Like it could have been a miscarriage or it might not have been. Okay. And it's just too early to tell because you really can't see much. Like they did like a transvaginal ultrasound, but there's not much to be seen that early on.
So nothing reassuring.
Yeah, I mean, I got labs done, and then I left and I called my doctor so that I could get more labs done. And my OB, it was during COVID time, and they pretty much over the phone, they scheduled me to have like an ultrasound, I think at like 6 weeks or something, which was like another week and a half, and they weren't scheduling me any labs or anything. And now I work with OBs, and they're like, well, why aren't they tracking your labs? But my OB didn't want to do that. So the OBs I worked with started writing me like lab orders so that I could track my labs. And the numbers were going up and everything was looking all right. And then the day before my appointment, I got a call from my OB's office, and they were not nice. They were like, I don't know why you're coming in tomorrow. I don't know what you expect to see. It is way too soon. Like saying all this stuff.
And this is after you've gone to the emergency room. And they didn't seem concerned.
Yeah.
Shocked that you wanted to.
Yeah. So it's like a week and a half later, but they're pretty much telling me like that it's just way too soon. And I was like, well, I'm coming because you scheduled me an appointment. You told me that I could come for an ultrasound. So they were pretty nasty, and I don't even think I ended up going for that ultrasound, but I was able to get a lab order from them, which they were like holding my lab results. I remember being at work. They wouldn't post them. I was waiting for the doctor to call me back, and it was just such a mess. And I ended up leaving their practice and going to the doctors that I work with, and they took care of me. They were monitoring all my labs. They were doing ultrasounds on me, and we could see like my gestational sac was growing and my numbers were going up. Now the numbers weren't going up as quickly as they were, but looking online, there's so much by week there's so much room where you can be with your HCG levels. Like at 6 weeks, you can be anywhere between here and here. So, I kind of was still there, but I wasn't seeing my numbers double every other day. They were sort of, but not really. So it was like a little worrisome. But the fact that, after I had that bleed, my numbers were still going up and they could see a gestational sac growing, was kind of reassuring. And then one of the ultrasound techs said they saw something that looked like maybe like the fetal pole, but maybe a little deconstructed, which I wasn't really sure what that meant at that time. So, we just kept scheduling for like another ultrasound. And then pretty much it just ended up being nothing there.
How did they come across that?
With the next ultrasound, like after they saw like what they thought was a gestational sac. So pretty much not gestational sac, gestational pole, whatever it's called, fetal pole. So my gestational sac, I think it was like at the week that it was expected to be at, like the size for that week, but what was inside of it wasn't there. So after they saw what they thought was the fetal pole deconstructed, then when I went back, there was like nothing there. So then I was thinking, well, maybe I'm behind. Like maybe we were thinking maybe the weeks are a little behind, and so they gave me some time and a little bit of leeway, and waited to do the next ultrasound, and pretty much told me that there's nothing there. So that we had to schedule a D&C, or I could take the medicine and like let it happen on its own, but they really recommended the D&C, and they told me they were going to do another ultrasound like the morning of the D&C, just to make sure, because if weeks are off, which it was very unlikely for weeks to be off, because I got pregnant like right after getting my Mirena out. And another thing was my progesterone level was really low, and my uterine lining was very thin, which is not like a great environment for everything to happen that's supposed to happen. But my uterine lining was very thin because I just got my Mirena out. So really, like, a pregnancy happening that quickly was not a great it wasn't a great environment for that to happen. So I ended up getting a D&C in February of 2021, and they called it blighted ovum, which I had never heard of before, which is pretty much a gestational sac with nothing growing in it. And that was really hard for me because I had no idea like how to grieve a blighted ovum, because I thought I had a baby growing in me, and they thought they saw something at one point growing in the gestational sac, and then the next point there was nothing. So then it's like, was there ever something growing? Or
like, get your hopes up.
Yeah. So I don't know was there something growing and then it just didn't continue to form, or was there ever just nothing there? But they sent everything off, the doctors. And one day when I was at working, one of the doctors came up to me and she was like, "Oh, we got the results back. It was a girl." And I was like, gosh. "Oh, I didn't even know that you could figure that out." But also, I'm at work and
not a good time.
Yeah, I just like started crying because that was like a whole another like can of worms that I didn't even. I had no idea. Yeah, and she had no intention of like. Yeah, but she just thought I would want to know. Yeah. But pretty much the genetic studies came back that there was like nothing genetically wrong. And I had no idea they'd find out a gender. So, but yeah, so that was kind of hard. And the D&C, since it was during COVID time.
I was going to ask you to talk about that because I know Mike could not come in with you. I remember you texting me that you had to go through the whole thing by yourself. So talk about that.
So it was during COVID. So we just got the new surgical center built at my work. Not that long before that, and pretty much I had to get dropped off. It was in February, so it was dark. I had to be there super early in the morning. I don't know what time, and he just had to drop me off out front. He couldn't even come sit in the waiting room with me.
I just want to, as an outside perspective or person, like looking in on this, I cannot imagine, like, for lack of better words, for myself personally, like the emotional trauma that would go through, because you're going through such a traumatic thing. and your husband can only just drop you off.
Yeah.
He can't be there.
Yeah.
He can't hold your hand, can't do anything, and you're literally going through this by yourself. I cannot imagine that.
Yeah. It was really hard because, I mean, it's where I work, and I guess you could say that I know people, but I don't really know people that work in the surgical pavilion. But it is hard because I'm going in to get rid of something that, like, you know, I really wanted, and my husband couldn't be there, and they were going to do an ultrasound right before to make sure. Now I'm getting emotional. It's my turn to cry.
Do you want me to get tissues?
No, I'm not going to cry. I'm fine.
No, you can cry.
So, he just couldn't be there. So I'm just sitting in the waiting room by myself, waiting for them to call me. And I go back, you know, by myself. And then thankfully, one of the doctors that I work with was there because she was doing the procedure. And what made it really special, not that it's special, was that she was with me, you know, from the pre-op room. She held my hand as they were pushing my bed from the pre-op room to the OR, held my hand the whole entire time until I fell asleep. So I didn't like fully feel alone. And it was the OR room. I'm pretty sure I remember being OR 7, which 7 is my lucky number. So I was like, well, maybe I don't know what I was. I don't know what was lucky about that, but you know, but it was nice that she held my hand the whole entire way and didn't let go until I fell asleep. So I still feel like a very close bond with her because of that, because she tried to help me not feel alone.
I feel like that's, you know, a good doctor.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. She should be doing what she does.
Yeah. So that was nice. And
Nice to stayed out in the car the whole time too.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I had no idea how to grieve that. So I'm like, should I be grieving? Like, I guess nothing was there, or was there something there? I have no idea. So I didn't really talk about it a whole lot, and I really didn't take any time off of work. So I went right back to work, and my first day back to work, which was just a couple days later, I was being pulled to be baby nurse in the OR, and I'm like, I cannot do this. I cannot go to the OR and watch a baby be born after I was just in the OR having a D&C.
When a baby's born and you're the baby nurse that day, you're like in the rooms, and like what the baby comes out and you take the baby immediately and do all that first. Like,
we take care of the baby.
And this was right after that happened.
Yeah, my first day back to work. And it is a different OR because we have a different OR in the women's pavilion than the main OR that I was in. But still, just the fact that I had to go there, I was like, I cannot do this. And thankfully, you know, somebody else went for me, so I didn't have to go that day because I don't think I would have gotten through that. But yeah. And then I can't remember who told me this, but somebody said like, oh, just, you know, I don't remember how long they said not to do anything for, but then they also tell you, oh, you're the most fertile like the first 3 months after having a miscarriage or whatever. So I don't know how true that is or not. So I was really hopeful, although I was still really sad. And I got another positive test in May. Another test positive test in May that month, so it's just a couple months later. So I was really excited about that, and I stuck with the doctors that I worked with as my OB, and you know, they sent me for labs right away, and again my progesterone was just not looking good, but the numbers were all right. They were where they were supposed to be, but then it was like 5.5 weeks, maybe 6 max, and I was working, and I just started bleeding at work. So that was hard too, because then I was at work when that happened. So I left. Obviously, I left work and I went home, and that was very early, so it wasn't as traumatic for me as my first one, because I was still grieving that. I grieved that for a really long time. Like,
well, I feel like you found out that it was a girl. Like there was more.
Yeah.
To it then, and then you had to go through such a traumatic thing with that one.
And I also grieved that one kind of like silently into myself, because like I just said, I didn't know if I even should be grieving that loss.
I feel like you did all of them to yourself, really, except till eventually you opened up on social media. But for a while, it was like you were very quiet about it.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question about so how did it feel? You went through the whole D&C and everything, and then you got pregnant again, and then you started bleeding at work. Like, what went through your head, if you can even remember back then? Like, did you know instantly, like, it's happening again? Or
Yeah. I pretty much knew, because it was, like, it wasn't, like, the type of bleed that I had the first time that brought me to the ER. It was just, like, you know, like a period type bleed where I pretty much knew. And so that just happened on its own. So that was hard too, but you know.
It's like back to back, and then I know there's people who experience like a bunch in a row, and I'm just like, I can't imagine like that. Like you're trying to grieve and deal with the first one, and then you're hopeful, and then it happens again, but then you keep trying. Yeah. That takes a lot, I feel like, to still have the courage to keep trying.
Yeah. So then we did. We kept trying, and then I was not getting pregnant at all, and my period was so light, super, super light. It would last for like 2 days max, super light. Like, this is TMI, but to the fact where it hurt to wear a tampon because it was so light. You know, like the end of your period when you're wearing a tampon, you're like, I can't do this because, well, that's how my whole thing was. And
just off.
Yeah. So I was very concerned about that. And people were just like, oh, you're getting older, you know, different things like that. Your cycle's changing. And I'm like, no, this is not normal. This is not normal. I've always been,
you know your body.
And I've always been very regular and like this 5-day cycle. And for me to have like 2 to 2.5 day cycle, this is not normal. So I did a ton of research, and I was just kind of like looking into that, and I read about this test called a hysteroscopy, and I was like, I need to have this test done, because pretty much I was thinking that maybe there was still something in there that was causing me not to get pregnant, because I was going like all this time without getting pregnant. And my periods were so light. And a lot of times they say if you still have like tissue or things from previous pregnancies stuck in your uterus, that it's more of a hostile environment, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And also it will prevent you from getting pregnant, and it could change your periods, because I guess you don't really have,
I feel like it's like all being
a normal
like blocked period or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I need to get this test done, and I'm asking about it, and everyone's like, you don't need that test done. You do not need that test done. And I'm still telling myself I need this test done, but nobody wants to do it. So then I'm looking up specialist, because I also read for that test it should be somebody who specializes in it.
Oh, not like your
OB, unless they do a lot of them, I don't know, but it should be someone that specializes in it. So then I'm looking up like a specialty doctor to do this test. And I also we contacted Shady Grove so that we could get testing done to see like what's going on. I had 2 back-to-back losses, and it's never taken me long to get pregnant, not longer than 4 months, and now I'm not getting pregnant at all, and my cycles are weird. So I went to Shady Grove, and they did all this testing, and everything came back normal, and Mike's testing came back normal. The only thing that came back was that I had like a low egg reserve, which was devastating to me, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm too young for this. I don't have enough eggs. How am I going to have another baby? Which everyone's like, you only need 1 egg. You're going to be fine. But I was still devastated about that.
I feel like that puts a timeline on things then. Yeah. So then you start stressing more.
Yeah. And I brought up the test to Shady Grove that I wanted a hysteroscopy, and they're like, no, you don't need it, because they did all the tests. There's like a saline test they did, another test with some kind of dye that was painful. I don't remember the name of it. Yeah, it hurt. I don't remember the name of it. But everything looked good. My tubes weren't blocked. My uterus looked fine to them. So they said that I didn't need the hysteroscopy. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm just going to give up on this test, because I obviously don't need it. But it was still devastating, because I was like, this is so crazy. Like, I have these losses that I'm still grieving. I can't get pregnant, and everything looks fine. So what's the deal?
Yeah, frustrating.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't know how to move on now. Like, how am I supposed to feel about any of it?
Yeah.
And then you can't even be excited about trying again because you're like, I can't even get pregnant again.
Yeah. So that was hard to deal with. And then they started talking about IVF. And I was like, I don't really want to do IVF. I don't feel like I need IVF. Can't we try IUI? And they're like, well, I guess you can try IUI, but we think you're going to have better chances with IVF. And they wanted me to do all the extra testing, and it's so expensive. And I was like, well, I think maybe we should try IUI first and give that a shot. So we're kind of getting ready to get all that set up, and then the doctor... Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, can I just ask a question? Because I don't know this, and I have a friend currently doing this, and I truly don't know. What is the difference from IUI and IVF? I don't know. Like, and you want to start with IUI because I have a friend going through all these steps too. So
IUI is intrauterine insemination. So pretty much...
They put it in there?
Yeah, so it's kind of like, when they joke about like the turkey baster type thing.
That's basically what that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So pretty much they would take Mike's sperm, get out all the things that they don't need to make it more concentrated, and then give it to me to give me a better chance. Yeah, and they gave me these percentages about like, you have this much percent, and it wasn't that great. This much percent chance of getting pregnant with IUI, but your percent chance of getting pregnant with IVF is this high, beautiful, wonderful percent.
You to do that.
Yeah, and I was like, I think we're gonna just.
Did you feel pressure? Like they were pressuring you?
I didn't feel pressure. I definitely felt like they were trying to push me more towards the IVF, which, that's the whole, you need to get the eggs retrieved. You're giving yourself all these hormones, which I still would have had to give myself hormones for IUI because they want to make sure that my follicles are all stimulated and I have eggs and, so it's still a lot of hormones and things, injections that you need to give yourself. But IVF is definitely a lot more. And they do the egg retrieval, and it's more surgical.
All that stuff.
Yeah. So we were getting ready to like set up the whole IUI and everything, get the meds ready for that. And they called me and they're like, we actually think we might see something. I think we're going to schedule you a hysteroscopy, which is the test that I have been wanting.
That you wanted.
Yes, I wanted that test.
Who called you? Like Shady Grove?
Yeah.
They thought they saw something?
Yeah, which I guess they didn't originally see, but my doctor's like, I think, and she's like, and it could be nothing. But she thought she saw something, like on my uterine wall, just a little small something. And so she's like, we'll do the hysteroscopy. And I was like, okay, that's great. It was great news. I was so happy to hear that because I had wanted that, but I gave up on it.
You were trying so hard to advocate for yourself, I feel like, and people were just shutting you down.
And then I told myself after, like, you're crazy. The professionals are telling you there's nothing there. Just drop it. Your period is just not the same anymore. So I dropped it. And then all of a sudden I got the call. And I went for the hysteroscopy, and they did it, and the doctor came out, and so it wasn't my doctor, it was another doctor. He came out and he was like, there was a very small something like tissue that was stuck there. He's like, but it wasn't really much, so I can't say if
it's going to make a difference.
Yeah, if it's really going to make a difference. But I was still happy that they found something. So I was like, okay, perfect. So I went home, and we were getting ready to go on a trip to Nashville.
Like, come on, Mike.
Well, we were getting ready to go on a trip to Nashville with our neighbors and our other friends because Mike had a conference there for work. And so I told the Shady Grove, I was like, we'll start IUI when we come back. And when we got back from Nashville, I was getting ready to order all the medicine. But it was getting like close to period time, so I was like, let me just test.
For the heck of it.
And it was positive. And that was Olivia. So right after, like a month after.
You needed that procedure.
That little teeny tissue that was stuck in there, probably from my last miscarriage. something
where
was
you
still
didn't
stuck.
get anything, you didn't have anything done after that one. You didn't
Yeah,
need
no.
the DNC or
Yeah,
anything.
exactly. So nobody knew what was in there.
Yeah.
And they didn't really see it on the testing at Shady Grove because I guess it was so small. But to my body, that little teeny piece of tissue or whatever it was made a difference. And it was not allowing me to get pregnant because I guess it thought something was already growing in there. There was already something in that space, so I couldn't get pregnant.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's
mind-blowing to me that you're asking for this to be done and that people are telling you, no, you don't need it. Like, at what point does somebody say, like, can doctors not do that? I don't know this. You're in the medical field. Like, oh, she really, like, can you demand that you get that done?
I mean, I guess I could, but that doesn't mean that they have to do it. I mean, I could just, like I said earlier, I was looking around for a specialist that did it, and I could have called them and they would have done it, because they're getting paid for it, so why not? But if, my OB really didn't think I needed it, and they didn't have a reason to think I needed it, I guess. I don't know.
And probably all the changes your body's going through, they're like, you just had 2 miscarriages.
Just like give yourself a rest. But I'm sure I could have found somebody to do it. But
it is the sweetest thing when you say, and we came back from Nashville or whatever, and they were like, or you said, let me just take a test or whatever it was. And they were like, and it was Olivia. Because she's here now. And so when you say that was Olivia, that makes me want to cry.
Yep.
So, like, she's here now, and, like, you have her.
Yeah.
And, like, that moment, like, you didn't know a couple years later you'd be sitting here, like, that test is now her.
Yep.
That sassy little redhead.
Yep, she is.
Princess dressing little girl.
So, of course, when I got that positive, I called Shady Grove. And even though they didn't do anything yet, they still took me on and we did blood work. And
they helped you after that,
yeah, they still watched the pregnancy, even though, like, because, I mean, they still helped, with the hysteroscopy and everything. But I didn't need the procedure or anything. But still, they did all the blood work and the ultrasounds. And then they released me to my OB at, like, 8 weeks or something. So, yeah.
I remember to this day the moment you told me about Olivia. Well, you told me about all of them. And then I've said things, not knowing things had happened when I shouldn't have. But we were going to Great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah.
And we went to lunch. We got there early, us, our husbands, and our kids. And we were like, let's go to lunch first before we, dive into the water park and all that. And the boys ordered drinks. And you were like, are you going to order a drink? I was like, I'll order a drink if you do. And you were like, So I put my order and I'm like, what are you going to get, Jess? And you just looked at me and you didn't order a drink. You ordered like a regular, like something. No, not like a cocktail or anything. And I was like, you're going to have me drink alone? And you just looked at me. I have this ingrained in my brain. And you were like, I can't drink right now. And I literally was like, shut up! Like lost my mind. And Mike was like, calm down. And I was like,
Yeah.
And then to think back now that was Olivia.
Yep. And you're the godmother.
We've come full circle.
Yeah. And then I think it was with my first loss. Remember, we were like FaceTiming.
That's when I said that.
Yeah.
That's my whole point of view is what to say and not to say. I don't know what to say still, but I have learned what not to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
because it was during COVID.
Yeah.
So we couldn't be around each other, but Madison and Brayden had become pretty good friends, so they were often asking to FaceTime one another. Yeah. I
don't really remember exactly what happened, but I remember you said something and then I just sort of started crying.
Yeah. It was something.
Which I wasn't upset with you. I
forgot what I said.
Because I think that was before, it was like when I knew that it wasn't going to be good, but it was before the DNC, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I knew you were having the DNC the day you were going in for it.
Yeah.
Because I knew you said like how Mike couldn't come with you and stuff. I don't remember what I said, but I remember it being one of those things where I was like, you can never make that mistake again. Because it's like a thing like you say assuming something, almost like you might assume someone's like, when are you going to have kids? And and you don't know that they can or
Did I tell you I was pregnant? Or did you say something? You might have said something about me having another. And that's when I started crying.
Because I don't think you knew I was pregnant. And then
Yeah.
I lost it. Or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Because I want to say I made a comment. I didn't make a comment about, like, how are you feeling? Or how's the baby? Or whatever. It was something about you having, like, soon, when are you going to try for number 2?
I don't think you knew at that point.
It was something about getting pregnant where I was like, I will never ask somebody ever again about when they're going to have a baby. Because I put my foot in my mouth on that one. It was something about, like, when's number 2? Or hurry up and have number 2 or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And you were
something totally harmless.
And then you started
But when you say it at the wrong time.
Yes. And from that moment, I was like, lesson learned.
I know, you felt so bad. And I felt bad.
I cried when you started. I was like, oh my God.
I felt bad that you felt bad.
Worst thing ever to do. And, but I'm sure that happened. Like, what are some of the things, because I obviously don't know how it feels, and I know it's like, well, what do you think was hard? You were, the emotions or, like, the physical part of going through it all? Or all of it?
No, I mean, like, the D&C itself was pretty easy, but, like, yeah, just the emotional aspect of it all.
The thought of what's happening.
Yeah, was hard, and really just not knowing, like, the proper way to grieve that.
That's what I was going to ask.
Because I felt like I was just so upset and so emotional, and all I wanted to do was cry, but I felt like I couldn't cry in front of people because I didn't know if it was, like, really a real pregnancy. So I'm like, oh, you know what?
It is if it is to you.
Yeah. But then to me, it's just like, well, they're going to think I'm stupid for being this upset. So I can't be upset. But I still had to go through with the whole thing up until about 9 weeks. It was like 9 weeks when I had the D&C, 9.5, something like that. Thinking that, you know, everything was hopefully going to be normal. So I think just trying to figure out if I was even allowed to be upset about this situation was hard.
How did you get to that point where you let yourself grieve? And because I want to bring it up, but I don't want to bring it up. But you ended up getting a little public about it. I
did. So
how did you get yourself to that point?
There was somebody that I was talking to that had like a I think it was a full-term pregnancy loss or closer to that. So, you know, she had gone through her whole pregnancy pretty much and then lost the baby, which I can't imagine that.
Did she have to deliver it?
I don't know all the details. I think so. I remember she had pictures and stuff.
I know we know somebody in common who had to do something. Anyway.
But I don't remember if I reached out to her, if she reached out to me. I don't fully remember, but I was talking to her because she was running a group called the Maryland Chapter of Tears. Yeah.
That foundation or something. Yes.
And she told me about it, and, you know, people, I don't know if it was its own group or whatnot, but people were posting their stories and different things, and we were talking, and I think I was talking to her about not knowing how to grieve. And I ended up writing something, and I shared it with her, and she was like, that's great. Like, you know, if you want to post it, you should post it, you should share it, or if you want to keep it to yourself. And I was kind of back and forth on whether or not to share it or not, and I finally just decided that I would share it because it was just the whole thing of how I felt about that first pregnancy loss. And I think that helped me, because another thing that was really hard for me was that I didn't really talk about it, so then it was like it never happened. So I was just dealing, I was dealing with it all by myself, and I know people didn't want to, like, ask about it because they were worried or, you know, didn't want to upset me. And I guess I don't want to always talk about it, but at the same time, when nobody talks about it, then it's like it never happened, and then that's even harder.
Yeah.
So I did end up, like, writing something, and I posted it online, and a ton of people messaged me because they had gone through a loss, or, you know, whether it was an early loss or a later loss, they had gone through a loss and didn't fully feel comfortable sharing it, but they just felt like they could relate so much to me and that it really helped them. So yeah, I kind of was talking to a lot of people around that time who have had losses, because, you know, they say like 1 in 4 experience some kind of loss. So
how was it because I know there were people during that time who were getting pregnant. So every time you heard like a friend of yours, like so-and-so is pregnant and you're going through all of that, how's that? Because I feel like anybody who's struggling to get pregnant, even if they didn't have a miscarriage yet, but they just can't get pregnant, but everybody around them is and having babies, and you're just like, you want to be, and you're not happy. You are happy for them, but it has to be like a little like punch to you at the same time.
There was a few girls at my work that were pregnant, and actually when I would have, like with that first loss, like when I would have had that baby, if it would have worked out, somebody also was going to like deliver right around the same time, or they did deliver around the same time. So I know when that date came up, that was hard. That was kind of hard for me. But yeah, there were girls that were, I was working with that were pregnant and finding out that they were pregnant. And there was, I think, 3 girls in my neighborhood that were pregnant. So of course I was happy for them, but it is hard. It's like a hard, it's a hard combination, because you're happy for them, but then you're just sad for yourself.
Yeah.
And then not knowing why I wasn't getting pregnant made it hard. But some of the things that people would say, which they thought was harmless, would be like, well, at least you know you can get pregnant. Like, this was in the beginning, before I stopped getting pregnant. At least you know you can get pregnant. At least you already have a kid. You just keep trying. Like, different things.
It makes it sound not as difficult as it is. Like, or it almost makes it feel like you shouldn't feel the way you feel. Yeah. But at least you know this, so don't be that sad.
I do feel bad, because there are people who had never been pregnant and they're trying so hard. So at least I know I could get pregnant, or I was able to get pregnant, and now I'm not. And, thankfully I had that procedure, because even if I would have done IVF, I probably still would not have gotten pregnant.
Successful. Yeah.
So, I think when people say things to you, they mean it in the best way that...
I think they're trying to be reassuring to what they think would be, but when you're not in that situation, you don't realize what you're saying is just like, it almost is like not validating how you feel. Basically, I feel like it comes off like you're wrong for feeling that way, because you still have all these things that are good examples. Like, you shouldn't feel sad, just do it again. Like, that type of, like, I feel like that's not what they mean, but that's how it comes off. I know just I said that one thing to you on the phone, and it's hard because it's like you want to acknowledge if something happens, especially when you have a loss. Being someone on the outside, I'm like, I want to acknowledge it and I want to be there, but I do not want to say the wrong thing where someone's like, you have no empathy for me, you don't understand anything, you're so insensitive, and be like, I don't want it to be that way, but I also don't want to just ignore what you're going through, because that's a big thing too. But if you don't want to talk about it, I don't want to make you sad, but if you want to talk about it, I want you to know I'm fine with that too, like whatever you need. But I don't know how to tell you that and not say the wrong thing.
I think
so. Then I just don't say anything. But then, like, but I need to say something. I need to acknowledge that I know you're going through a very hard thing, and that sucks.
And I think that's like a lot of people are that way. Like, they want to say something, but they don't know what to say. So they're like, well, maybe it's just better if I don't say anything at all.
Yeah.
And that is even with other things, that not even necessarily like pregnancy loss or fertility issues. It could be with anything, like any type of sickness. Like, if somebody has cancer or something,
if there's any loss,
you don't know what to say.
Anybody passing away, not trying to relate it to this whatsoever, but when Ramsey passed away, so many people tried, they would just be like, I'm so sorry, but I actually wanted to talk about it for some reason. I was like, I have to talk about it, and people were like, you don't need to talk about it or whatever, but I was like, it really helps me for some reason to talk about it, not trying to relate it at all. But I mean, I just feel like in such traumatic or sad situations, you just never know what to say, and people turn to not saying anything at all.
And then eventually,
you feel very alone. Like I feel like if I didn't acknowledge anything to you, you'd be like, you know what I've gone through. Not saying you'd feel this way, but this is what I would be like. You know what I've gone through, and I know you know. Why aren't you, like, saying anything about it? Type of thing.
But it's also hard because people are afraid that they're going to upset you more. Because everybody's so different. Some people want to talk about it, some people don't. And I think that I did. I just didn't want to. I don't know. I don't want to feel stupid talking about it. And I just would find myself pretty much every day on the drive to work just crying the whole time. And that
during
helped.
all of this, you're the mother-baby nurse during all of this. So you're doing that every time you go to work.
Yeah. And there was another girl that I was working with, and at the time, she was going through a hard time too with pregnancy issues and losses, and we kind of really bonded a lot over that too. So I had somebody to talk to at work about it too, which helped. I mean, it's sad to see anyone have to go through it. But.
Especially when it's something like, I feel like as a woman, like most women, not all women, but most women see their path like one day I'm going to have kids. And then if you find out it's not going to be easy or not possible, then it's just like, that's what I feel like you look down in your future and that's just what you see is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And then if you ever hear like that can't happen or it's not going to be what you thought or something, it's like devastating a little bit. It's taking away part of like what you feel like you're meant to do. And then I feel like for you, another challenge, I don't know, I mean, obviously I'm not you, so, but you also knew the medical side more than like somebody like me. If I were going through it, I don't know. Like you try to say you needed this test or you had doctors at work, or you could, I don't know, I feel like you're much more in tune with that kind of stuff.
I did a lot of Googling. I mean, hysteroscopies, I can't even hardly say it, aren't tests that we do where I work, So I didn't know much about that test. I just did a lot of Googling about my symptoms.
Your numbers and like I needed these levels and stuff. Like me as like an everyday person out from the street would not know what any of that meant.
LabCorp gives you like a scale where you should be. So.
Oh, okay, never mind.
But most people don't have to worry about their HCG levels because they don't even get tested. They just, continue on with the pregnancy. I feel like it's when you have issues is when they start testing.
And you probably become more aware to look for those numbers.
Yeah, it's when,
I think, that post you put out that one day, your black and white photo, I think it was black and white. Unless I'm just, I framed it in my head. It's weird to say it was a beautiful post, but for me, for somebody not experiencing it, to see you open up about it, and it's also like an emotional picture of you. Like, you're just sitting there. It's not even me, and I'm going to cry now because I see you. And your post about it, and then how little you said about any of that, and then to see you put it out on Facebook, I was like, first of all, good for her. Second of all, this is incredible. And I feel like even this episode, like how many...
I'm good.
I'm sorry. How many people are going through this silently and probably struggling so hard, like you were for a while, still might some days or something. And like, not that people have to talk about it, but I think things like that, it like sparks with somebody. Like you said, people were like, oh my God, like your post helped me so much. Nobody knows I'm going through this, but I am.
Yeah. So actually that picture with Braden, when I found out I was pregnant with him, I took a picture on my bed. And this was at our old house holding the pregnancy test. So I was like, I have to do it again. So I did it. And then after that loss, I just kind of was like, you know what? I made the picture black and white and gray, just like how I felt. And I posted that with.
It's weird that I remember it. But because I feel like it was something that just stuck so out as like, it was very vulnerable of you to do. And then I feel like so many people, whether you got like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, or I love you, Jess, or you're so strong, or I'm struggling quietly with this. So reading this is like somebody coming up to me being like, I understand everything you're going through right now. Yep. And I don't want people to talk to me about it, but hearing that, I know I'm not alone. Like, I feel like people need that support, and especially when they're not ready to talk about it, but they have all those feelings. it's like a community almost. Because, like, for people like me who don't know the right thing to say, and I'm like, how do you help people like that? And then they don't even want to talk about it, but you want them to know they're not by themselves or something. And I think this stuff happens way more than you realize. I feel like now I often run into people. I have a good friend now going through it all who say, like, I've had a fertility journey or losses, or I'm still on that journey. And I'm like, I feel like people just assume you just get pregnant and have kids when you want to. And it's just as simple as that. And I feel like more times now you hear how it's not that simple. And then you're just like, I had no idea that so-and-so was going through this. So I think things like what you did is very brave because you probably help more people that you don't even know about, especially like this episode.
I'm very lucky that I was able to have 2 kids, and I was with Shady Grove for a while, but I didn't end up needing like any actual fertility treatment. But there are a lot of people go through losses, and people are more open about it now and talk about it now. And there are a lot of people that are having fertility issues, and I feel really bad for them because I remember how it felt when I was going through it. So I do wish, I wish everyone that wants to have a baby could have a baby, and but I also do work on a mother baby unit, and I see moms that come in because the last time they felt movement was a day ago, and then they just get the worst news ever, and they follow through with all their prenatal care, and they have this perfect 38-week-old baby or full term that isn't there anymore. So to me, I look and I'm like, it could have been so much worse, and I don't know how I would have dealt with that. Any loss, though, is a difficult loss, no matter if it was early on or later. But I truly don't think I could have done I don't know what I would have done
if it was more than that.
If it was longer, yeah. So I really, really feel for those women and those families.
But I think it's just something everyone thinks. Like, I mean, I don't know how common obviously it's always been a thing, but like even when we got married, like my grandparents or everyone's like, when are you gonna have kids? Like they just assume like that's the next thing you do. And I'm like, now I've become aware. I think honestly you're the person who brought me to be more aware, because you were the closest one that I've seen experience it all, that I was like, I need to be more self-aware now.
And you never think it's going to be you that has those issues. Like, I had Braden, no issue. I think I said on a previous episode, it took 4 months, and I thought that was forever. So you just never imagine it's going to be you. And then when it is, it's wild.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing everything.
Yeah.
I didn't want to pressure you. And you said you wanted to do it. But I do think this is such a big thing that people struggle with silently. And so this will be a place they can come and be like, I am not by myself. I might not want to talk about it or be social or put things out there, but obviously they're not alone.
Yeah. And if you are struggling and you just don't really want to talk about it, you should definitely look into the Maryland chapter of Tears, because I feel like when I kind of looked at that community, it really helped me. Just reading other people's stories and how they were coping with everything. So it's a great resource to check out.
Oh, that's good. Very helpful. Yeah. So thank you for sharing everything. And I'm sorry you went through all of that. And now you have Olivia! I feel like that's how you have to say her
My
name.
wild girl.
So anyway, thank you for joining us. And if you need support or anything, or feel free to, if you know anybody dealing with this, share this with them. They're not alone.
You can always reach out to me. I know it's been a few years now, but feel free to reach out.
And to just be mindful of what you say. I've learned, even when in one of our previous episodes I said, like, oh, a doctor just told me, like, have a couple drinks and be stress-free. And you were like, on the same hand, though, when you're in like that situation, that's not possible. And my good friend going through all of it, she actually texted me and said, what Jess said, I can completely relate to. And I was like, oh, here I am on our podcast saying advice a doctor gave me, but then somebody in the completely other situation is like, that's not the advice I want to hear right now. So I just think I have to be much more aware.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with any situation. When you haven't been through it, you really don't think about all of that type of stuff. So there's situations that you've been through that I haven't, and I probably said the wrong thing because I have no experience with it, you know. So
can't be as worse as when I asked you about having a second kid, and immediately I was like, oh no.
It's okay.
Oh no.
It was harmless. You know, it was meant to be harmless.
But it was harmful.
No, I don't take it that way. I understand.
But thank you. Thank you guys. And anything else you want to add or share? Or was that, I don't want to
No, I think that's everything. Yeah.
Now we're even on the crying record. 1 for 1.
Have a good day.
Bye.